So you're the tobacco industry in the 1900s. You're the maker of the perfect product. Cheap, accessible, easy to manufacture, and incredibly addictive.
Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack.
And for the past couple decades, demand for your product has gone up so drastically.
In 1910, the US was producing 10 billion cigarettes a year. By 1930, we were up to 123 billion.
That you're pretty much swimming in money. But then something happens that threatens your entire tobacco empire. Two reports published in 1953 and 1964 prove that there is a direct link between smoking and cancer. And these were no ordinary reports either. They came straight from the president of the American Cancer Society and the US Surgeon General. Suddenly, your entire business comes under attack because it's unhealthy. Companies get away with selling junk food that make people die of obesity, but smoking has to go? This was a major problem because if people believed without a doubt that their cigarettes would kill them, they may just quit. You need to sow doubt and disbelief. You need to make people want to believe your side of the story. Your solution? One of the greatest marketing ploys to ever fool the public. This is how they did it.
I earn a living fronting an organization that kills 1,200 human beings a day. 1,200 people. We're talking 2 jumbo jet plane loads of men, women, and children. I mean, there's Attila, Genghis, and me.
Lucky Strike. First again with Tobacco Men. First again with Tobacco Men.
Meet Edward Bernays. A 25-year-old Austrian-born Jew, Edward Bernays applied to enlist in the military, the very same day America declared war on Germany in 1917. Unfortunately, his bad eyesight and flat feet disqualified him from serving. But Bernays was far from giving up. You see, he had a natural talent for rallying people behind great causes. In other words, he was an expert at propaganda. And what better way to serve than by getting more Americans to support the war? So he talked himself into a position at the Committee of Public Information and set to work. He held rallies, brought freedom fighters to inspire people, and got massive companies like Ford to distribute pro-war brochures in the US and abroad. By the time the war was won, President Woodrow Wilson was so impressed by Edward's work, he was invited to the Paris Peace Conference. All this got Edward thinking, if propaganda could work for war, couldn't it also work for anything else? And he was right. So he set out on propaganda campaign after propaganda campaign, rebranded as public relations campaigns, earning him a reputation for being able to get anyone to support pretty much anything. When he joined a company that sold pork products, he was tasked with convincing the country that bacon and eggs was an all-American breakfast. And to do so, he got doctors to advocate that heavier breakfasts was healthier. Edward Bernays had discovered a universal truth. Role models influence desire. Whatever the role models we look up to want, we also want that same thing. When it comes to diet and health, people look up to doctors. And Bernays realized that every industry has its own role models. And if he could just figure out who they were and get them to advocate for whatever product he was pushing, he was golden. By the end of the 20s, Edward Bernays was a propaganda legend. But his most impressive propaganda campaign yet was just about to start. In 1929, the president of the American Tobacco Company came to Edward for help. His business was doing well, but there was a completely untapped market he wanted to break into: women. See, in the late 20s, women smoking was very frowned upon. It was unladylike taboo. That meant that if Edward could get women to start smoking, tobacco companies would literally double their customer base. So he started with identifying why women smoking in public was such a taboo. He came to the conclusion that cigarettes represented male power.
What kind of a man is he? I'm a guy who likes to work on my car.
It also happened to be the age of women's rights. So what better way to get women to smoke than by taking the feminist angle? By smoking, you're taking back your freedom and power from men, from the patriarchy. By smoking, you're challenging male power. So in March 1929, Edward made his move. Back then, the Easter Day parade in New York City was a big deal. It was as important to retail sales as Christmas is today. High society women would wear the best fashion and walk down Fifth Avenue while being admired by the plebs lined up on the sides of the streets. In other words, the parade acted like an insane role model that women looked up to. So the New York City Easter Day Parade became Bernays' vehicle for his cigarette campaign. His plan? Get a group of good-looking but not too good-looking women to spontaneously light up cigarettes as they walk down the parade. In 1929, this would be the equivalent of Beyoncé puffing on a jewel during the Super Bowl halftime show. So Edward sent out an appeal to the high society women to light what he called torches of freedom during the parade in the name of women's liberation. And everything happened exactly as planned. During the parade, one woman after another started lighting up Lucky Strike cigarettes, the signature brand of the American Tobacco Company, and Edward made sure that photographers and journalists were there to capture it all. Edward even got his secretary to pretend to be part of the movement, all to read a carefully crafted message to the press about smashing discrimination by smoking in public. And just a few days after the parade, women took to the streets all over the US, smoking their torches of freedom. The sale of Lucky Strike cigarettes tripled within a year. Edward Bernays and the American Tobacco Company had turned a toxic product into a symbol of freedom. Big Tobacco just got women to think that smoking in public was their own idea. In cutthroat industries like tobacco, new ideas are constantly being bounced around for how to make more money or how to get more people to buy your products. And that's true for almost every other industry in existence today. Jumping on a new trend or craze before it blows up is what makes people millionaires, maybe even billionaires. And if you don't have the pleasure of being in elite circles, that is where Trends comes in. Trends is probably one of the most valuable yet unknown knowledge hubs on the internet for aspiring entrepreneurs. They help you find your next big business idea or startup before it explodes. Here's how it works. Trends sends you emerging business trends months before they pop, saving you from months of research, spending thousands of dollars testing, and it saves you from the feeling of regret of not starting sooner. And not only that, Trends then gives you a community that can help make it happen. A community where you can meet your next co-founder or investor. They've got over 15,000 ambitious and successful people all rooting for you and your success. And to top it all off, Trends gives you live trainings with industry experts to teach you the best practices in topics like SEO, marketing, operations, fundraising, so you can become a better business operator. And even if you can't make it live, you can access their library of past trainings. All you have to do to get started is to go to trends.co/JakeTran with the link below, sign up, and enjoy access to all the biggest and best trends before the world catches on. One of my favorite features of Trends is their databases that give you inside information like the funding data for thousands of successful Kickstarter campaigns, or the Trends Recession database that can help you find out how entrepreneurs have found ways to not just survive but thrive during difficult economic times. To take advantage of everything Trends has to offer, go to trends.co/JakeTran, that's .co not .com, to get a 7-day trial for just $1. That's trends.co/JakeTran to start your 7-day trial for just $1 with the link below. Thanks to Trends for sponsoring this video. World War I was a great time to be a tobacco company. During the war, cigarettes and tobacco weren't a luxury, they were being subsidized or handed out for free as part of the tobacco industry's patriotic duty, and the soldiers ate it up. What better way to calm your nerves in the battlefield than with cigarettes? Even army surgeons praised cigarettes for helping wounded soldiers stay calm. So during the 4 years of war, sales tripled. And when those soldiers came back home, well, they were already addicted to nicotine and became customers for life. It was the perfect marketing campaign. When World War II came along, you followed the same business model. Cigarettes were handed out with food rations, turning hundreds of thousands of soldiers into loyal customers. But that wasn't all. In 1941, Germany banned smoking in public. The Germans had lots of anti-smoking campaigns around the start of the war because they knew it was bad for your health. Obviously, you already knew tobacco wasn't exactly great for people's health, but the Germans had just given you the opportunity of a lifetime. Anyone who would go up against tobacco now could be labeled anti-American and pro-German. After all, what did the Germans know about public health and safety? Hitler and Mussolini apparently hated tobacco, while the leaders of the free world, Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin, were all heavy smokers. The Germans and Italians were cruel and hated America. That's why they refused to smoke cigarettes. And believe it or not, the rhetoric worked. Now more than ever, patriotic families and returning soldiers encouraged tobacco as just another way to stick it to the enemy. And once again, cigarette sales skyrocketed.
In a nationwide survey, doctors in all branches of medicine were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" The brand named most was Camel's. Tens of thousands of doctors, general practitioners, surgeons, specialists, doctors in every branch of medicine were included. And according to this nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Try Camels yourself, the cigarette so many doctors enjoy.
Both world wars and the women's rights movement had done wonders for cigarette sales, but of course it was never enough. You knew cigarettes could become even bigger and more profitable if only you could get more people to take their first puff. Once they did, they would be hooked. So you launched one of the craziest fast-paced sales campaign in history. You hired doctors and dentists to endorse your cigarettes to put people at ease over the health risks. You used slogans like "More doctors smoke Camels" based on a survey taken after giving all the doctors a free packet of Camels.
Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette.
Quotes like "just what the doctor ordered" were all over cigarette ads.
Coffee, doctor?
Oh, fine. Have a Camel with your coffee.
Thanks.
And that wasn't all. Building off of Edward Bernay's strategy, you took it a step further and started paying celebrities to smoke on the big screen. Cigarettes were made into something sexy, sophisticated, and alluring. The Marlboro Man made it seem like only real men smoke cigarettes, and campaigns even went so far as to get kids into smoking too.
They like to use cartoons and symbols to hook our kids.
Let's take a Winston break. That's it! Winston is the one filter cigarette that delivers flavor 20 times a pack. Winston's got that filter blend.
For over 2 decades, you had free reign to advertise where you want, claim what you want, and do just about anything to make more money, and it worked. By the early 60s, 42% of Americans were regular smokers. This meant you had over 75 million loyal customers. Life couldn't be better. But then in 1964, a report came out that would bring your industry to its knees and change the course of nicotine marketing forever. On January 11, 1964, the US Surgeon General released his report on the connection between smoking and cancer. Basically, it says smoking was a direct cause of lung cancer in men and women and was one of the main causes of chronic bronchitis. This sent shockwaves through America. Suddenly, the government started tripping over itself to start regulating the same industry they relied on to keep their soldiers going just 25 years earlier. It seemed like cigarette sales had come to a grinding halt. Something had to be done. You couldn't let decades of hard work and propaganda go down in flames because of one doctor's opinion. So you went back to the drawing board and came up with a strategy to ensure that no matter what the doctor said, you wouldn't stop selling.
That always adds up to real smoking enjoyment. Why? Well, first, because Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. And then this fine, good-tasting tobacco is toasted to taste even better. Cleaner, fresher, smoother. So anytime you want to lighten a problem, light up a Lucky.
For the taste that you like, light up a Lucky Strike right now.
Years of lying to the public taught you one thing. If you could sow even the smallest seed of doubt in people's minds, their addiction to tobacco would outweigh their medical worries, and you would continue making money. The plan was simple. Number 1. You would go on a smear campaign digging up every little bit of dirt on the doctors going against cigarettes. No one would listen to a guy who cheated on his wife. Make the health fanatics unlikable, and people would find their own reasons not to believe them. Number 2. Overwhelm the public with scientific data so they wouldn't know what to believe or what it all means. Get hundreds of doctors and researchers to write opposing reports so that no one would be totally sure what the truth is. And number 3. Take the health freaks on in public. Send your most likable spokespeople, because if the public likes you, they're less likely to listen to a quiet, uncharismatic scientist who can't keep their attention for more than 60 seconds.
How on earth would big tobacco profit off of the loss of this young man? Now, I hate to think in such callous terms, but if anything, we'd be losing a customer. It's not only our hope, it's in our best interest to keep Robin alive and smoking. The Ron Goodies of this world, the Robin Willigers, to die. What? You know why? So that their budgets will go up.
Then Big Tobacco started the Council for Scientific Research, a very serious-sounding organization tasked with investigating the claims against cigarettes and reminding people that there was no way to prove this.
Who provides the financial backing for the Academy of Tobacco Studies?
Conglomerated tobacco.
That's the cigarette companies.
For the most part, yes. These guys realized quick if they were going to claim that cigarettes were not addictive, they better have proof. He's been testing the link between nicotine and lung cancer for 30 years and hasn't found any conclusive results. The man's a genius. He can disprove gravity.
And then, just for good measure, you decide to create a new, healthier range of cigarettes that were lighter, filtered, roasted, or had menthol. All these adjustments made cigarettes healthier than ever, and were obviously a great alternative to quitting tobacco entirely. Your counterattack was working. You were the caring tobacco company who even paid their own money to find out if cigarettes were bad. You had the well-being of your customers at heart. But this ruse couldn't last forever. In the 70s, the US government had enough and finally started banning tobacco ads. But that didn't stop you. When your ads were banned on TV, you moved them to newspapers. When they were banned from the media completely, you became the sponsor for sports events and celebrities. Banned from advertising in stores, you switched to marketing reps outside the shops. And when the 90s came around, the internet, viral marketing, and online sponsorships were a lifesaver.
The message Hollywood needs to send out is smoking is cool. We need the cast of Will and Grace smoking in their living room. Forrest Gump puffing away between his box of chocolates. Most of the actors smoke already. If they start doing it on screen, you can put the sex back into cigarettes.
Even after almost every form of cigarette advertising known to man was restricted, you would find a way to keep your customer base growing, like placing cigarette display cases at kids' eye levels and taking advantage of poorly enforced online content policies. And of course by expanding into developing countries, where the restrictions can't be enforced. By 2019, the global sales of legal tobacco products hit $818 billion. More than 5.2 trillion cigarettes are smoked a year. That's nearly 1 million cigarettes every 60 seconds. By the time you're done watching this, around 15 million cigarettes have been smoked, depending on the length of this video. And even after all the anti-marketing campaigns, nearly 20% of adults still choose to light up. And with the advent of healthier options like e-cigarettes and vaping, Big Tobacco seems to have found a brand new angle to exploit. Now, Big Tobacco may sound bad, but the truth is, most companies, governments, and organizations after money and power do this exact same kind of code-calculated thinking. They just never admit it to the public, for obvious reasons. And that's what we try to dive into on this channel, so you too can profit from the same kind of Machiavellian thinking. If I were a startup, I would say we're democratizing the pursuit of money and power. But the thing is, some of this stuff is just a tad bit too dark to post publicly. That's why you should click the join button below, or the link below if you don't see the join button. By joining, you'll get access to exclusive documentaries going over how the world really works, that are too controversial to ever be released to the public. This month's private documentary is going to be on MKUltra, the government's incredibly unethical mind control program. That full disclosure is probably going to be a little delayed because my posting schedule this holiday season is really packed. And rumor has it, the one after that is going to be on our friend, Jeffrey Epstein. We already have one out on Monsanto, the company that owns the world's food supply, that you can watch right now when you join. And you can always preview the ones out already without being a member with this link below. So click the join button below right now for the knowledge they'll never teach you in business school for just $5 a month. If you join and don't think it's worth it, email me and I'll personally refund you the money. Sign up today with the join button below.